Mhm. Well, I guess it's not working. Guess I'm not coming on. Dang it. I wonder how come it's not going live. Oh well. Well, maybe I'll just dance a little bit until maybe. Yeah, I'll just dance a little bit till it comes on still. Sorry. Fooled you. Welcome to the Native Wellness Institute Power Hour. Hope you are having a great day. And I got to apologize where I'm at right now. I hear some yard work going on. So if it gets too loud, might have to sing and dance for you. But beautiful. Glad that you're here today. And I'm going to put my readers on. Man, can you believe that? I had to wear readers now just to see this. And it's only when I wear my contact lenses. My contact lenses are super powered. So when they're super powered, when I have them on, I had to use the readers to see that. But we all go through that, right? It's called getting wiser. You thought I was going to say getting older, but it's getting wiser. And I like to think of it as that we find new ways, find new ways to look at things. So welcome to this episode of the Native Wellness Power Hour on this beautiful February 19th, this beautiful day that we're having here in Arizona. I'm coming to you live from the traditional homelands of the Akimel O'odham. One thing I just want to put out there too is that our thoughts and prayers and spirit and good intentions are there for the people who are struggling right now with the weather conditions and of this big storm front that has hit some parts of the country. And we know there's some tribal people out there without electricity and certain things. So it's just prayers that they're taken care of, and those things can be resolved for them. Get their heat on and get their supplies, food, water supplies when needed. So put some prayers out, put some medicine out today, and for all of them that might be going through that. So at this time, I just also wanted to give a shout out to all of you for being here today and being with me today. I hope that we can talk about some things. So what's interesting is today topic is coaching, and the reason I wanted to address about this is because basically when we do Native Wellness Institute, when we do these power hours, we kind of put where our mind is, where our attention is. And lately my attention has kind of been in this this realm of what we do. And I want to give shout outs to everyone who works, who makes that decision to work and with our young people out there. And the reason is because working with our young people is such a how should we say, it can be very unappreciated at times. It can be very, very unappreciated at times. Um, Through all the years that I worked with youth, that's something that I just really, take to heart and appreciate, is all the pleasant comments and suggestions and support that you get when you work with young people, because it's not always like that. Uh, I see Eileen on there. What's up, Eileen? Eileen is one of those people who falls under the umbrella of people who work for youth, and rather than work with youth. And these are people who, when their job doesn't call for it, they still do it. When they're not on the clock, they still do it. They're still in their communities, giving support, giving what they can. Living that true village life of that idea that every single young person is important, and how do we play a part in helping them and supporting them. And Eileen, I know Eileen through the Unity, where we have a lot of youth council advisors, and man, talk about a tough job. There it might sound like a cool thing, the youth council advisors, but it's such a tough job. I mean, that's one of the jobs that I had. When you're a youth council advisor, you really become a scapegoat for so many institutions and so many people. You tend to get blamed and a finger pointed at you from all directions, rather than more of appreciation about who you are and what you do. And that's one of the things I want to talk about today, because when we hear coaching, we just think of sports, right? But coaching is beyond that. We got to look beyond sports. And even when we're in the idea of a sport activity, we got to look beyond that. You know, we got to transcend what is sport and what is coaching. Particularly is that we all end up in that mode sometime or another, whether it's coaching young people in the community, or whether it's coaching our coworkers, or whether it's coaching ourselves. There's a lot of aspects that we have to look at today. So I just wanted to share that with you, and just share a little bit of my background. My name Robert Johnston, from Muskogee Creek in Choctaw. My parents are Roy Johnston, Roberta Johnston. I grew up here in Mesa, Arizona. I've lived here my whole life, and so our family has developed here kind of their own our own network of creek here, I should say. And growing up in that, here's what I want to say is that my first coaches were my family. My first coaches were my parents, were my aunties and uncles. I remember the first lesson I got on boxing out was from my Aunt Rhodey. And man, it stayed with me my whole life as a coach, because it was so simplistic. But I think one of the reasons why it was so effective for me was that I knew the person coaching me loved me. And my Aunt Rhodey, my Uncle Steve, my Uncle Wayne remain some of my favorite coaches. And even though it might have been for a short time, they're my favorite coaches. Why? Because um, there was no pressure. There was no pressure. They wanted me to do well, but there's no pressure in that. If you don't do well, this is gonna something bad's gonna happen to you, right? I Over the years, when I watch young players play, there's a lot of fear in our young players, and I think some of that fear kind of has developed throughout in this competitive mode and has changed the game somewhat. I think the changes of the game are based on fear. And I mean, I don't want to get into this whole sports talk about this is why we're here, whatever, but I'm bringing this out of what fear does. And we see that the basis of fear is the basis of behavior change. And we're talking behavior change, not in a positive direction, but it's also the basis of miscommunication. It's also the basis of motivation. Now, when I say motivation, we're not talking about the motivation for us to do things that are in our best interests, but I'm talking about the motivation to do things to avoid pain, hurt, fear. Um, and that can be huge, and that can have ramifications even to adult life. I mean, let's face it. We've had people who are completely healthy get sick from COVID, and then it get really bad because of the fear of going to a doctor and being told that they have COVID. We have a fear of changing our lifestyles. And when we talk about our lifestyles, what I'm talking about is these learned behaviors and habits that some of these learned and uh, habits are the result of avoidance of fear, right? Our avoidance of change, because change is fear. Anything that's unknown is fearful. So when we have that, then we move into something like a pandemic where we have to really look at what are our behaviors and what are the changes that we need to get through this. And it's tough for a lot of people. And so what I want to talk about in with this idea of coaching is how it's really toward that idea of fear, and really toward that idea of pulling back those limits that hold us back in life. So I was thought about. I always like to put things in a easy way, so a way to remember. For example, we have our warm ups routine, and for our young people, and these are what we call dynamic warm ups. So when our team gets together and they want to go out there and do their warm-ups. So dynamic warm-ups, the whole idea of it is to get them ready to practice or play. And so I had them what they're supposed to do, but they'd have a hard time remembering it. So I put it in Slam Dunk 360. Slam is slides, lunges, arm circles, mountain climbers, duck unders, up downs, knee hugs, karaoke. And I'm laughing because I know some of those don't match. Knee doesn't start with an N, obviously, but phonetically, it's easy for them to remember. And then 3 up, 2 back, and then 60 jumps. That's our warm up, and it's easy for them to remember because it's written out like that. So one thing that as a person who works with young people, I think when we look at let's face it, you're a coach. You really are. You're a coach. And whether you work with people who want to make changes in their life or to take certain steps in a healthier direction for them, or move into a new territory in their life that they haven't been through, you're a coach. If you're an older person who's experienced something before in your life and you see someone going through that experience for the first time and they're asking for your advice, you're a coach. If you're somebody who's given advice, you're a coach. If you're somebody who's posted on Facebook or Instagram or any of the social media, your healthy eating habits, your workouts, you're a coach, right? You're modeling healthy behaviors. So if you look at it in a traditional aspect and we put in those parameters, we were all coaches, right? That is our circle of life right there. That is our idea of eldership, is that you learn from others and you watch them and they help guide you through moments of your life. They give you support. They teach you. You know, that's what our whole idea of circle of life is. That's the whole generational effect of the generational pipeline, as we say. That information doesn't come from one individual. It comes through a group from those that are older than you that are taking care of you. There was this idea that anyone in your community or anyone in your tribe once was your auntie or uncle. I say once was because it's that same feeling that nobody's there to hurt you, that they can teach you something with not the implication of success or fail, but the idea of this is what you need to learn for you to do what you need to do. There's a difference there. There's a difference there. When I watch some of my athletes play on their school teams, you can see these little nuances. For example, if something happens, they miss a shot or someone scores on them, the first thing they're going to do is look at the bench. The first thing they're going to do is look at their coach, because what's going through their head is, I'm going to get pulled out of the game because I made a mistake. I'm going to get pulled out of the game because I made a mistake. Now, what that means then is they're playing out there with a lot of fear, and they're playing conditionally, meaning they have to play with perfection to stay in the game in their mind. Now, we know a basketball or any sport, it's, perfection doesn't happen. We don't look at Michael Jordan as one of the best because he was perfect. We look at him as one of the best is because he rose above the challenges, right? Well, challenges that you face are meant to cause imperfection, are meant to push you off balance. That's why they're a challenge, right? So really, when I look at young people today, it's such everything that they do, they work for high reward. They work for high reward, meaning, hey, you know what? If I hit a couple of threes, that's good. Or if I get a dunk, that's good. Or if I get a block, that's good. And again, that there comes a problem with that, and particularly because it's a false pretense that those high rewards are going to get them far. Whereas, most collegiate coaches, they don't look at those things. What they look at is your work ethic. What they look at is your fundamental background. And basically that's it. Because coaches at higher levels, they want to take a player that they know is coachable and could get into that moment. And yeah, you have your few exceptions. I mean, if you show up 17 years old playing like LeBron James the way he did when he was 17, yeah, you're going to have it easier for you. But, we're talking one out of a billion athletes that are out there. So what we have to do is focus on the little things as coaches that help us go there. But what helps keep me in perspective of what's my job as a coach, because that's the big thing, is what's my job? What am I supposed to be doing? So maybe this will help you out. Coach, creating opportunity and access, right, by championing healing. Creating, and I know whoever's my NWI person on here, they're going to put that up there for me in the chat. Creating opportunity and access through champion healing. Okay. Now I'm gonna break that down. I'm gonna break that down for you for a bit. And I'm gonna use some personal stories of it too, because again, when we apply it in this direction, it goes well beyond what we can do with the player on the court. It goes to their life story. Part of our way, our traditional way, is what are the stories that we hear? Because the stories that we hear and that we perceive and that we take in become the stories of our life. And from those stories where we have our learned belief systems that become our learned behavioral patterns, that become our learned emotional patterns. So it really comes down to the stories that we're hearing at a young age. And anytime at a young age, whenever we hear we're not good enough, smart enough, fast enough, we're already limiting our beliefs, and we're already limiting our potential, and we're already limiting our emotion to the challenges that we're going to face as we get older. So one of the first things that we do, and we host a lot of camps, and I love the young ones. We host camps, and they'd be the parents would bring the kids over and drop them over. We're talking, second, third, fourth grade. They drop them off, and then we have them. Our staff has them for half a day, and all we focus on is inclusion and having a good time, right? So it's not as much as, okay, dribble the ball 5 times here, do it right. If you mess up, da da da. No, we do fun games. We run around. We come up with a lot of games. One of the games we come up with is called Shark Attack, where they basically chase the coaches, but they have to dribble the ball the whole time. We make it inclusive for them, that they're developing a relationship with the game, right? Now, if we go back to understanding about how we traditionally taught, it was through inclusiveness. It was that the young people, the young women, the young girls would be around the women to learn what are the responsibilities and roles that the women play to their communities. And as a life giver, what are those responsibilities? They learn at a very young age. For our young men, it's be the same thing. It wasn't just saying, hey, someday you'll be a hunter too. It's like, you're already with that at a young age. You're already being around that element, because those are the stories that you hear, the stories of being out there, the stories, because the images that you see are the stories that you're being taught. And so when we think, and we're taking young people, putting on the court, right? If we help them develop a love for the game at a young age, that's a lifelong relationship that they can have. And if we teach the game the right way, it can be a healing experience for them already. If we bring competition in at such a young age, it's going to happen real soon, where they see, well, I don't win games, so I don't belong. I don't win games, so I don't belong. So here's funny. When I used to play video games quite a bit, actually, and I could go online and I could handle whatever, but there came a point where I wasn't playing those type of video games, like the shooting games and things like that. And then one time I got asked to, hey, can you get on and play? And so I did. It was one of the modern, with the Call of Duty games. Man, as soon as my guy would appear, I'm shot. I think I'm trying to do something. I see a guy trying to shoot him, miss, 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 miss. I just what I realize is this is that you know what the reason these people are so good at this game is because they play this all the time and I don't play it. I can't even have fun. All I'm doing is target practice. That's not what I want to do. So I just kind of quit playing, right? Well, that's because at that time I wasn't putting in the time. You know, I wasn't spending the time of that wasn't desirable to me to spend a lot of time playing video games. It was something that's supposed to be fun for me, and it wasn't. And I hate to see with the young people where they give up on a sport or give up on a hobby or give up on a skill or give up on a dream at an early age because it's not fun, you know, because it's not inclusive, because they feel like, okay, I don't belong. And so, you know, that's one of the things that the very first things that we have, especially at a very young age, is just to make it inclusive, to make it fun. And the way to do that is to leave the competition out of it. You know, leave it out of it. Who cares how many points they get? As long as they got smiles on their face, as long as they're saying, I want to go back. And naturally they develop that knack and naturally they develop that sense because as they get older, you know, they're going to get older with the game. When they hit about 12, 13, 14, it's no longer being on the court isn't enough. They want to get better. They want to do more drills. They want to be more competitive. They want to learn more about the game, right? And at that age, that's when you can start with the get a little bit more with the fundamentals. I always say this: 10, 11, 12. Those were always my favorite ages to coach. Why? Because they'll do it. They're very, very coachable. They want to be challenged. They want to take on those challenges. I remember my first squad that I coached when they were in a 12 years old. I mean, I would consider my practice for those 12-year-olds maybe harder than what I saw at the high school levels. And when I say harder, it wasn't that I was intentionally trying to make, okay, now I'm going to make you work really hard. It was just we worked on more things and it was challenging for them. You know, it was challenging for them. And about that time is when I started to coach the Warriors, and the Warriors is our high school squad. And I started to coach them. And after my first two practices, the players were already complaining that I was a little bit too hard on them because they were used to the coaching prior to that. And even though I tried to explain to them, oh, they thought I was mean to them intentionally. That's what it was. As they brought it to my supervisor, that I was being mean intentionally. And so I was trying to explain to them, you know what, I'm challenging you because I know you can do better, and I know that you can meet the challenge. Um, but they didn't get the message, and it wasn't until I brought my 12-year-olds into practice with them and basically ran the same practice that I would do with my 12-year-olds um, with them. And they saw that those 12-year-olds had no complaint. They didn't back down and they stepped up. And it kind of set that tone there. It kind of set the tone of like, oh, okay, okay. Um, because here's the thing is that challenging our young people, that doesn't mean wanting them to fail. What that means is wanting them to succeed, wanting to bring out the best in them, wanting to see what's already there in them. And when we look at what challenging is all about, challenging means is, you know, getting to see things in a different perspective. Unfortunately, I've seen a lot of native athletes who get, and particularly males who get by and get away with a lot of things simply because they're the best player in their communities, and that has again lifetime effects because outside of high school or outside of youth basketball, struggle as adults, as adult men, struggle with reality, struggle with just a sense of earning, not deserving. You know, what I mean by that is not just going through life, well, I deserve this because I'm this, but rather than I'm going to earn this because I have this inside of me. That's what we're really trying to do. Coaching and celebrating our young people should be celebrating what they're going through and what they're experiencing, and not celebrating what we feel about them. right? Not say, oh, okay, they made us proud because they won a trophy. Let's do this for them. It really shouldn't be about that. It should be about what they feel, celebrating who they are, celebrating stepping up. And that's what I wanted to really just kind of explore that. Now, this idea of access and opportunity. Here's the thing with access and opportunity, and it's a struggle a lot of times people have with our young people, and that struggle is that sometimes this idea that our young people have too much. I've yet to see an indication of our young people having too much. When I say too much, I'm not talking about I just talked about where we get this unneeded attention. I'm not talking about that. Yeah, I guess that's a case of getting too much. What I'm talking about though is opportunities, um, and access to things that, let's face it, normally probably no one's ever had access to before. For example, I'll give you one example. Um, well, let's put it this way. So we um, we raised. I remember one summer we raised a lot of money as a program and went out and seek funds, and we got a lot of money so we could send two young people to the Michael Jordan camp and in Santa Barbara, and they were there for about 3 or 4 days. And when they came out of it, yes, they got a picture of Michael Jordan. Yes, they got an autograph. I think one got a hat autograph, one got shoes autographed by Michael Jordan. But they didn't enjoy the camp because they said a lot of it was watching others, and they got to watch Michael Jordan play. And I guess that for a childhood memory, that's great and all. But these are guys who wanted to work, and these are guys who wanted to improve. Though they enjoyed it, it wasn't challenging enough for them. So my focus, and in the past, I would do that, support sending young people to camps at colleges and everything. And eventually I just said, hey, you know what we're going to do is we're going to send our coaches. We're going to send myself and who's ever involved with the squad to these and learn from the coaches. And anything that we see that's good out there, we're going to bring it to the youth here. The way that we develop our young people and give them access to good coaching is that we had to be good coaches ourselves. We had to understand what we're doing here. We had to understand what we're teaching. And I'm really proud of our, like even today, I'm just so thankful and proud of our coaching staff. I was watching one of our coaches, a young man, Tyron King, coaching last night, and he was really breaking down the fundamentals for one of our players, particularly working the baseline and sharing some tips with him. Not only that, but the repetitive mode and bringing out these things, these barriers to challenge him, and that positive talk. Let's go. You got this. Let's go. Let's go. Um, how awesome it was to see that, to see him do that out of passion and care, and not just out of passion and care for the young person, but passion and care for his craft of learning. I love that. I love that. That's the great payback when we see young people doing that and giving more back to the younger generation, right? To those that are younger than them. So that's awesome. But to me, having access to good coaching is something that can be rare, I know, for a lot of our people. So a little bit of our program that we focus on the urban natives. So we're talking about a lot of people who maybe have moved to the Phoenix area and don't have the services that they would have if they still lived on the reservation. Although a big makeup over the years of our history ties in directly with the Salt River community because a lot of our young people have come from there. But overall, they tell us what they want, and that's what we respond with. Um, we give them what they want. If they want an opportunity to play college, that's what we do. But support comes in so many other different ways. But access and opportunity, it really had to take into. We had to let go sometimes of this narrative of that we know what's best. Now we have experience in our own life and we've heard stories from others and we know their stories, but that's the knowledge that we have. And it's simply that it's hard for us to predetermine predetermine for a young person what their life pursuit should be or could be. When I see, what bothers me is when I see so much pressure put on athletes, young people who simply don't want to play the sport anymore, or simply just not interested in it anymore. And there's this pressure put on them. Sometimes people will just stop speaking to them. It's bad, and not understanding, what they're doing to these young people. And I got a story similar to that. I got a young man who was a talented scorer. Like, I tell you how talented he is. At 12 years old, he was averaging 24 points a game. This kid was the quickest kid on the court, and he had this natural shot. When he gets a ball, he just so quick and fast, and his defense. Sometimes I would have to chill him out a little bit. It's like, hey, calm down a little bit. You're going too wild out there. But that's a good problem to have with a young player when they got all the energy in the world and the speed and the quickness and the agility to do all the tremendous athlete. Well, I remember the day he told me that he didn't want to play basketball anymore. Right? My first instinct, like, bye 24 points a game. Right? That's 24 points a game, man. We just went from averaging 100 points a game to 76, right? Because that's how coaches think. But I thought of it too. It's like, you know what? Whatever you want to do, I support you. I support you. And what he wanted to do, he wanted to focus on breakdancing. Breakdancing. Well, I support you. Heck, I'll come watch you dance. Right? I'll videotape for you. Right? If you come around, because I had a camera, I'll videotape. I remember one time videotaping and doing backspins in a subway, just to show him, hey, I'll support you. But I also saw the leadership in him as well. He had this tremendous leadership in him. So I said, hey, you know what? Let's get you involved with the youth councils. And when you get involved with youth councils, want to do more, let's take you to San Diego Native Wellness. And let's take you to Unity. Let's take you to NCAI. Then the only times I think I really advised him, rather than just putting him in positions to observe and be a part, he'd come to me and ask, hey, I want to run for this. Like, I want to run for the NCAI Youth Commission. You think that's a good idea? I say, hey, you just got to break it down, look at it, what's in your best interest, talk to your folks. But whatever you do, I'll support you. Right? Hey, do you think I should run for Unity Executive Council? Same thing. I think the only thing I advised him on is what to wear at one of his meetings. It's like, you might want to change that. This is more business attire. Why do they got to judge us on that? Anyway, that's a whole nother story. Basically, if you don't know who I'm talking about Anthony Dosh Collins, someone who's now a board member of the Native Wellness Institute. The whole point of it is that my job as a coach wasn't to predetermine the path he was going on. My job as a coach was to help open the doors for him to explore himself. Did he get a professional career from basketball? No. Did he get a professional career from breakdancing? No. Right? Did he get a professional career from other things? Possibly. But what he has learned in his life is that when he believes in something and is passionate about it, go for it. And this young man is making some big waves in our communities and in our nation. And trust me, his name is going to be out there even bigger as he moves forward, because the ideas he's presenting, and I love to hear him talk, and I love to see him. And here I am. I feel like I'm a student listening to my coach when I hear him talk about movement, or I hear him talk about ancestral foods. He's coaching me now. And I love that. I love that. Isn't that what we pray for? Right? Isn't that what we pray for? But again, that's what our job is. When we plant seeds, right? We don't sit there and watch as it grows saying, no, you're growing the wrong way. Put your leaf more like this. We don't do that, right? We trust the natural law. We trust the natural world. And see, here's the thing also about access and opportunity
is that um, everyone comes in with a spirit, and our access. Well, I mean, when we're given opportunity, we're given opportunity for that spirit to grow. So I truly believe when we do take our young people and put them in situations where they're working out hard, they're testing themselves, they're getting in a relationship with their bodies. And what I'm really like to see is when they see it, when they get real tough and thinking this is going to be something hard to do, but yet they stay with it and they overcome it. Um, I so many times do our athletes come up with excuses, and part of these excuses are what they're getting from the community around them, but also from the adults around them. When they saying things like, "Oh, the odds are stacked up against me." The odds are stacked up against. If you're doing something competitive, the odds are always stacked up against you. I mean, let's face it, right? That's what competitive is. It means you're going to face some challenges, right? But the idea that people are intentionally picking you out to stop you, it just doesn't fit in the narrative of what competitive sports really is. Because when you rise above the challenges, you're great. You're great. Again, using that reference of Michael Jordan, the reason he's up there is because he faced the challenges and he took them on and he succeeded, right? And even if he didn't succeed, his name would still be up there as one of the greats, right? Because of the facing of the challenges that he encountered. So I just, it really bothers me so many when I see good athletes go right to this. The coach doesn't like me. The refs are biased. The refs are racist. The system is racist, right? So look, we know in our history there's some element of truth to that, you know, institutionalized racism. But we're talking about sports here. And if we're talking about sports and an inclusion in sports, we have to move away because it doesn't serve a purpose. We have to move away from blaming our environment for our achievement and our underachievement, right? Now, there's some blatant racist things that happen, no doubt that we have that, but we can't use that as the excuse for everything that happens. You know, we got to hold our athletes responsible and hold our athletes accountable when we want them to improve or get better. If they're learning habits that they can go to as excuses, then that becomes their excuse of why they never did so, right? Looking back, um, there's a story of Jim Thorpe. And if you're familiar with the story of Jim Thorpe when he was competing at the Olympics, um, he went to his lockers and his shoes were gone. Now, there's been a lot of speculation on why. And most of what people say is that someone went into his locker and took the shoes. One was they're fearful of him because he was a great athlete and they knew having him not being able to compete better their chances. But the other implication, well, because he's native. What's a native doing in our Olympics? There's a lot of speculation there, all right, of the intentions of others. But what I like to focus on is the story of that situation of what Jim Thorpe did. He went to the trash and he dug around and he found a shoe, you know, and found a shoe in the trash. And keep in mind, that was pretty common back in those days because a lot of the shoes weren't made like Nike, weren't made to last for a long time. These shoes that we have, these shoes, they're made for like one time use, maybe a couple day use because they would fall apart. The shoes didn't have the great materials and put together the way they are today. Most of these shoes were just fell apart as you raced or as you run. So we're talking not only did he dig it out of the trash, but it's a shoe that someone discarded because they thought it was no good. And he wore that. And then a teammate had an extra shoe he wasn't going to wear anymore. And so he gave that. So if you ever look at the pictures of Jim Thorpe on his gold medal day, he's actually wearing two different types of shoes, right? And what did he do that day with those two types of shoes? He won a gold medal, right? And those are the stories that our young people need to hear because whether it is or not, whether the racism is real or not, whether the bias is real or not, they still have to rise above if they want to be competitive. if they want to be competitive and follow this line of chasing down an athletic dream, they still have to rise above. The teaching is there, is if they're facing a better opponent, they still have to rise above. uh if they've had internal conflict, they still have to rise above. If they lost all their games before, they still got to rise above. It all comes down to that same teaching that's consistent, is that no matter what the implications are, they still have to rise above of athletes if they want to continue. But once we get them into that excuse, and once we get them into that mode of, you had this game stolen from you, then it sets a precedence. And it sets a precedence of, no matter what I do, the outside is going to take me down. And pretty soon that outside is no longer attributed to the community. It's going to be to the tribe. Pretty soon it's going to be to the family, right? Pretty soon it's going to be to their own loved ones. They're just trying to hold me back. Um, and I would have done well in my life if it wasn't for them. That's where we have to start to change that narrative, and change who they are. Now, access and opportunity is where it's all about. So what my program, what we do here, is that we know that a lot of young people pay a lot of money for training, and pay for opportunities to develop. And what we do, what we aspire to do, is we aspire to do that at no cost to our native athletes. Because like I said, as we have athletes that move into town, sometimes their families are struggling. Sometimes they struggle to, sometimes we have pay-ins where the pay-in for to participate in tournaments only like $5, but families still can struggle with $5. And we never want money to be an issue for them to develop, to get better. I remember one time we raised, oh no, actually I made a deal with this gym, and this gym, it's a big gym out here, and they lease to a lot of trainers to work with players in this. So I made a deal, and that's how we do a lot of things here, is we do a little bit of a hustle with the gym owner, that she also had this other project going on. And I said, I'll do training for that group and sit in on that, where she don't have to pay me, but just allow us to come in and use the gym for these times. And she agreed to it. So we got this young native person in there who I was working with. And here we are on this court. And I look over the court next to me, and there's Frank Johnson doing one-on-one training with this player. And I don't know how much Frank Johnson charges, but I'm sure we're talking about a former, not only a former NBA player, but a former NBA coach who's over there training a player. And then over that, on the other side was Ralph Sampson training a player. Ralph Sampson, if you remember from the 80s, another NBA player. I don't know how much Ralph Sampson charges, but there they are. But these are the type of trainers. I mean, when we're talking about these players here, when their families who have the money pay big money, I mean, they pay a lot to get that type of instruction. And here we are, working to make it happen. I was that was a proud moment for me, because of the kid who couldn't afford a Ralph Sampson. I'm no Ralph Sampson or Frank Johnson, but it got me, right, that I was able to work with him in the same facility that these guys were getting that type of training. And that's what we want to do. That's what opportunities are, is to try to even the playing field, and not even the playing field by blaming what's up there or what we see as the field, but by getting our foot in the door. Another proud moment is when my coaching staff and I were asked to do a clinic through Nike. We were in the running against a group who does the camps for the Kobe Bryant camps. And we actually were the ones selected to do this camp during the NBA All-Star. And but again, it shows that the quality of work that we were doing with the type of coaching that we were doing with our young people. And I know that's all sports related, but what I'm talking about is that I have a passion for basketball and teaching and the fundamentals of basketball, and coming from that perspective. But no matter what it is, what you have a passion for, whenever you share that with young people, you're giving them opportunity that they probably normally wouldn't get. And I always share with people who work with you, teach them anything, right? If you think, well, I don't do anything, I'm just a fisherman. There you go. You could do 5-day workshops on fishing, right? It's just opportunity. And the more and more, because before we had this sense of opportunities were taken away from us, right? But now let's face it, today, these opportunities we're letting go of. These opportunities we're letting go of. We're letting this become the emphasis for our young people. And this right here has taken away a lot of opportunities, a lot of physical training opportunities, right? A lot of storytelling opportunities. But think about this, a lot of healing opportunities and a lot of communication opportunities, right? That's the big thing is what we're doing is give them access and opportunity. Part of that means is what are these skills, these what we call these life skills that are needed that they may not be getting elsewhere. So I remember at one time uh, we went on a trip, a basketball team. We went up to Washington to play. And one of the guidelines was when we went to eat, number one, we ate as a team, right? It's hard, and it sounds like something easy to do, but with our young people, they can be really picky. Some want Subway, some want McDonald's, and some will only eat McDonald's, that type of thing. But then it's about getting them to buy-in. It's not just going to eat; it's about being together, right? That's the buy-in, right? And but as a buy-in too, you got to be ready to. What does that mean? Oh, and the other part of it is that the phones all go down. So you see players grab their phones and go like that, and they put them. I don't have them put it in their own pocket or hold on to them because I have players who do this, put their shirt over it and do this, and you know exactly what they're doing. But they put it on the table. Now, what I got to do is okay. Now that we got this time, what can we do with this time? So open the floor up, get some questions going, get some memories going, get some stories told, get people talking and interacting. And pretty soon you hear things like, man, I didn't even miss my phone, right? You're there for, you get your meal, but you stay another 30 minutes because everyone's chatting and talking and everything. Of course, once you get up, everyone's like, but think about it, for that hour and a half, what they were learning is how to interact in a group, how to interact in a group. And uh, interpersonal communication is rapidly becoming one of our number one fears in America. Another is telephone calls. It's becoming a fear in America. So, you know what I mean is that we look for opportunities to share and to challenge those perceptions that we have. So that's what I love to do. Um, the other part of the support system too is that no matter where they go, you want to support. And if you build that as a early foundation, it stays with them. I mean, even yesterday, talked to someone who I haven't coached in over 15 years, come to me for advice and wanted to look at something because it's authentic. That relationship is authentic when you really want and your intention is for this person to move in a direction that is best for them for the rest of the entire life. It's an intention that is always there. So 15 years later, they can have that talk with you, right? Um, so that's what I love to do. There's a sense of reconnection that I think when people move into the city, into a place like Phoenix or Mesa, and they don't have that support that they used to have in their communities or in the reservations that they came from, there's a little sense of loss of connection. And what I try to do is help them reestablish that connection with the people that are in the area, that are coaching in the area or playing in the area, and help them reestablish that. But over the years, and this is something I'm real proud of, if you look in Arizona, and I'm feeling really good right now for a couple of reasons, is that um, over the years, there's been an emergence of young people. So I want to talk about my former school, the Westwood High School, the Westwood Warriors, who have gone through their own adjustments over the years. There used to be a time that as a warrior, they'd have whoever their band leader is running around with full headdress, whatever, and we've seen changes in that. But the Westwood is in Mesa, Arizona, and they're considered a 6A school, 2,500 plus students, public school, right in the city, right in the suburbs of Mesa. We're not talking off to the side. We're not talking like a small school. We're talking a big, big, big school, right? Well, at this big school, they have a lot of Native American students. Um, on the girls' basketball team, 90% of the players are Native American, and they come from all different backgrounds of Native, Navajo, Hopi, Apache, Altum, Salt River. Um, you have these girls here, and you know the tallest player is probably, I don't want to put a size to it, 5'8", 5'9", perhaps. I don't know. But basically, the average size is about 5'4", 5'5". We're not talking these big, girls. We're talking these little ones. And the ranking came out. They were ranked number one in the state of Arizona, 6A, the biggest schools, the most competitive league. They are ranked number one. And it's amazing. So far this season, they are undefeated. They continue. They're going to have a tough game tonight, but they play so honorably. I've had the pleasure of seeing some of these girls come to our camps when they were really, really small, and just learning the love for the game and just seeing them have some fun and smiles on their faces. And I remember some of my coaches looking at some of these young ones and giving them nicknames. We have one, Maya Johnson. We used to call her KJ. And we always challenge her to take on any of the boys who come in thinking they're all that. And there she is, going at them. And you see some of these girls score their first points and do amazing things. What's crazy too is some of these girls, I coach their parents, right? I coach their parents to see them being able to see pride in their children now and what they're doing is so amazing. And, they got a really good chance at winning state this year, and we're going to be rooting for them. But that's what I mean, is that the right circumstances of just looking at these young ladies step up and to go out there and be fearless, to have no fear going against bigger players, and to work as a unit, to work as a group, and to take care of each other, to look at each other as support. It reminds me of something, of a conversation I had with a couple of elders, but it wasn't until I was going around asking all these questions, and then I sat with Charlie Tailfeathers, and he broke it down for me. And this was years ago, but he made this prediction, is that our first successful professional Native American ball player is not going to be a man. It's going to be a woman. And I thought, really? Why is that? And he broke it down. He broke it down that the women are more supportive of each other, and they're further in their healing than men are, right? They're further in the healing than our men or young men are. Because, well, when it broke it down, it just really made a lot of sense as I started to understand it. Because what I started to do is, when I went and traveled to other places, I'd ask who the ball players are, and I'd go have conversations with them. Here's one way to look at it. When I talk to men, young boys, and I talk in like high school age, why do they play basketball, and what is some of the reasons why they love to play and involve in being on the team? One of the most common answers, I say one of the most top three answers, and these were guys, they were being honest. One of the top three answers was, it gets me girls, right? But then I'd ask the same question to the young women, and I never heard once any of the young women that I asked that same question to, any of them say it helps me get guys, right? All the, some of the other reasons were the same, but I never heard that. And that was the first thing I thought, when you have a perspective of what the game is and what it's intended for and what your intentions you put on it, um, there is a big a difference there. And yes, as we start to look at it, there is a support system among the girls that are stronger than what you see among the boys, because the boys, there was still more of a competition that was coming in there. And particularly where you see it now at the high school level, yeah, but when they get into the college level, what you saw was when they face challenges, the girls that went to colleges more open to talk to their coaches and have that cry, I miss home. I feel like everyone's against me. They're more vulnerable. When the girls as teammates come put our arms around you, we want you here. You would hear stories like that. For a young man when they went to college and they were no longer the number one person on the res. They used to be the best player on the res. Now they go to college and now they're number 7 or 8 and everyone's fighting them for that starting point. Do you think they're going to go cry to the coach? Do you think they're going to go talk to the coach about that? You think the other players say, "Oh no, it's okay"? No, and they weren't emotionally ready for that, and they head home. And what did they say? The coach didn't like me. You know, the other players were against me. They weren't in an emotional place to take that on or to be vulnerable to understand. It's like you're not going to be showing up to be the best player there. You have to go through a process. You had to go through a process, wipe your slate clean of everything you've done before and to start over because it's a new level. Some of our young men don't want to go through that again because at home, they were put up so high on a pedestal. I mean, so high on a pedestal, it got them girls, right? Uh, that's one of those challenging those belief systems that are instilled in a lot of our communities still is that we had to work on that emotional healing part of our young people. And so that Charlie had shared with me one time is that basketball shouldn't be a place for a young man to go because they're dealing with stuff. And then you hear young men saying, "Well, I play basketball because it helps me deal with this." Is that that's not a recipe for success. Recipe for success is dealing with it so you are free to play the game, right? Deal with those emotions, deal with what you're going through so you'll be free to play the game. When you step on the court, those are not going to limit you, right? Those are not going to limit you because emotions can limit you. Emotions overtake our consciousness, right? And when Charlie said that, the first thing I thought of was Michael Jordan. What is his biggest asset is that he had to learn how to be free in the moment. Meaning when he's playing the game, all there is the game. He doesn't think about winning or losing. It's just playing the game and having that freedom to play the game. To get to a level where this shot, taking the last shot, is not a fear. It's not a fear. And if anything, it's more of a confidence of like, I'm doing something that I've done over and over and over and over again. I have no fear in taking this shot, right? Free in the moment, no implications on that. That's amazing when you think about it, because I really do feel as a warriorhood, that's what we were meaning to happen with the intentional aspect of raising and developing young people to live life without fear so they can be live in the moment, whatever that moment is. Because if you're out there hunting, well, you know, no matter what it is you're hunting, what if that animal you're hunting turns on you, right? To be in that moment. So you let your instinct, your survival skills take care of you and what you've learned take care of you. Because I always feel this is that we tend to think that when our young people are having a rough time, we tend to think this, especially our young athletes, well, we just need to get them back focused on the sport, or they're not practicing enough. Or once we get them on the court, they'll be okay. It's because they're not playing or out there on the field. That's why they're having all these other issues off the field or off the court, right? We tend to think that. But reality is, look, the court time or the field time, they got enough of. They've gotten a lot of it. I would say, you know, if you go by that 10,000 hour theory, some of our kids, by the time they're 18, have fulfilled their 10,000 hours. And what I mean by that, they've mastered basketball. They've mastered the sport. What they haven't mastered is life. And as a coach, if you can help them through that, if you can give them access and opportunities to healing and champion healing. And what I mean by that, make healing your number one priority over winning. And what is healing traditionally? It's moving forward. It's learning to balance, right? It's learning to balance. It's learning to develop. It's learning, period. You're learning to do better. If we champion that instead of champion winning, right, and give them access and opportunity to do so, what you're going to see is them not only start to discover within themselves, but you're going to take these limits off of them, limits off of them. You know, I would say my successful years as a coach is when I focus strictly on the healing aspect of it instead of the winning aspect on it. Instead of being, okay, we have to win, let's go out there and do it. It was no matter what happens, just take care of each other. We still love each other and we're still a team no matter what happens. Right. That's when the shift happened within my coaching, within, we would say, some of the success that we saw. And that's what I stay true to today. And I just want to share that with you again. Uh, uh, Creating opportunity and access and championing healing is what I think is a coach's responsibility in today's world with our young people. So if you have any questions, you know, you can still go ahead, even though I'm going to get off right now, you can still go ahead and put this on here and I can answer some of your questions. But thank you for spending this time with me. And I hope that you have a wonderful day. One more thing, speaking as a coach, one of the players I used to coach, one of the things I'm doing this afternoon, he's pitching Aaron Mako. He's pitching today. He against Gonzaga, and they're actually playing out here in Surprise, Arizona. So yes, I get to go watch one of my former athletes do his thing on the pitching mound against Gonzaga University. So I'm excited about that. But you know, I feel really blessed to have the opportunities that I have as a coach, and to see some of my, I guess you could say, aspirations and goals, and yes, and dreams as well develop. And that is seeing the young people from when they were this small and just barely could even get the ball to the basket, doing some amazing things in their life. And that's what I'm most proud of as a coach. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful day. Drink some water, get some rest, and enjoy your weekend. But oh, thank you.